Hello, and welcome to Heart Containers, a daily Nintendo podcast where every Monday through Friday we discuss the latest Nintendo news. I'm your host, Rami Fawaz, and this is the episode for Tuesday, March 19th. Yesterday, Nintendo had some really great news for us Nintendo fans when they announced a Nindies Showcase for Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, or tomorrow. That's going to be tomorrow. That's very exciting. We're going to learn, no doubt, about the indie titles set to be released for the Nintendo Switch in the spring of 2019 as well as beyond. So we're going to be talking about the games that we expect to see during that Nindies Showcase, as well as games that we want to see during the Nindies Showcase that airs again tomorrow. There's also a story about Splatoon 2 and how it is getting its very own special demo that is live on the eShop as we speak. That special demo is going to let you play Splatoon 2 for free for a short while, as well as some other goodies that you should probably be aware of whether or not you're interested in Splatoon 2. So we're going to talk about that afterwards. And then we're going to finish the show with Gearbox Software, a developer that we talked about last week because they were tweeting out hints that they might be bringing Borderlands 2 onto the Nintendo Switch. Well, they keep on tweeting, and now we have yet another game that they might be bringing on to the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to dive into that as well in today's daily Nintendo report.
Well, the wait is over. This is Nintendo DS. My body is ready.
We would like to play.
A way to make 3D games a reality. And it's called the Wii U Game Pen.
We're going to start with the best news of the day. Nintendo announced yesterday afternoon via Twitter that they will be hosting another Nindies Showcase. Of course, if you don't remember, they already hosted one in January. So just 2 months later, and we're getting more news about indie games coming onto Nintendo's platforms. That's just something to be said about how successful indies have been on the Nintendo Switch. The tweet read, "Tune in this Wednesday, March 20th at 9 a.m. Pacific for a new Nindies Showcase video presentation featuring about 30 minutes of information on indie games coming to Nintendo Switch." Now, like I've said before, Nindies Showcases are the opportunities for Nintendo to dominate the marketing cycle for a time being and talk about a portion of the Nintendo Switch ecosystem that can sometimes be forgotten about when we get, in the glitz and the glamour of the first party games that we always want to hear more about, the Pokemons, the Animal Crossings of the world. Well, indies are just as important, if not even more important than those games, because when we're waiting for Pokemon news, when we're waiting to play these games, indies are the ones that often tide us over. They keep us company, they keep us playing. I remember playing a lot of Wargroove just last month, and now I'm playing Bubba Is You. So indies are key to this platform, and they continue to perform very well on the Nintendo Switch. I'm very happy that we're getting a Nindies Showcase so soon after the one that we got in January. That just goes to show that they have a lot to talk about, as well as that 30-minute time frame. 30 minutes is a lot, especially for indies, which, if you are familiar with Nindies Showcases, they usually only spend a couple minutes per game. So for 30 minutes, that could be easily very, very significant in terms of the pure volume of content you should expect to see tomorrow. So what other things should you expect to see in terms of games? What do we know that we're probably going to hear about in this Nindies Showcase? Well, Shovel Knight, King of Cards. Shovel Knight is probably a sure bet. King of Cards is the final campaign expansion for the Shovel Knight game that released many years ago at this point, and it's said to release in April, this expansion. April, of course, being next month. So we are bound to learn more about that game, as well as Shovel Knight having a long history for Nintendo. I expect to see that during the Nindies Showcase. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, that's supposed to release this summer, also being highlighted in Nindies Showcases in the past, so I would also expect to see that game in this showcase. Now, two other things that we may or may not see, but are for sure happening in some capacity. Hollow Knight Silksong, that was announced around that February Direct, but it was not part of the February Direct. That is the sequel to Hollow Knight, and that is a home console exclusive on the Nintendo Switch. So if Team Cherry has anything to show for Hollow Knight Silksong, you can bet that they probably will show something during this Nindies Direct. The only reason why they might not is if they are way too early on in the development of Silksong and they're not ready to show more about that game. We didn't get a firm release date on Silksong, so we don't know how soon that game is set to be released, as well as Wargroove expansion. So when Wargroove released, Chucklefish detailed the layout about what was to come for future content updates for Wargroove, and they said there's going to be a variety of content upgrades, including paid DLC. We might learn more about what that means in this showcase. Now, what about new game announcements? Those are some of the games that we probably are going to get. What might we hear tomorrow? Castle Crashers. That's probably a for sure bet. We talked about that yesterday. The teasing that the behemoth, that studio, was putting out on Twitter was very obvious, with putting 4 Joy-Cons on the screen or on an image, and each Joy-Con representing one color of the Castle Crasher characters. And then they went on to actually post another Twitter image of the same thing, but with PS4 controllers. And the reason why that's significant is because the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch are 2 of the consoles that Castle Crashers really never got ported on, because Castle Crashers has always been heavily associated with Microsoft. So it's a safe bet that since they're teasing those 2 platforms specifically, that this is going to be a port for the original Castle Crashers, which released all the way back in 2008. They said that we might hear more information about that game on Tuesday, which is today. But even if they announce it today, I expect to maybe see a video of it during that Nindies Showcase tomorrow. Also, here's my dark horse hope, Spelunky 2. Maybe Spelunky 2 was announced last year, I believe, and the sequel to the beloved Spelunky game that came out also during that Xbox arcade time frame. It really rode that wave along with Castle Crashers, but it was only set to come out for PlayStation 4 and Steam. I believe Spelunky 2. I can't remember if it was set to come out for Xbox One as well. Definitely PlayStation 4, definitely PC, not Nintendo Switch. Although the creator of Spelunky and Spelunky 2 has vocally said that he loves the Nintendo Switch, that he wants to get games on the Nintendo Switch, and there has been leaks in the past saying, hey, Spelunky 2 is definitely coming to the Nintendo Switch, so this might be a great opportunity to show it off. Now, the thing that I'm the most excited for is really none of those, and I'm not trying to be negative. I am definitely interested in every single game I just listed. In fact, I'm probably going to purchase every single game I just listed, but I already know about all those games. And when we see directs and showcases like this, I want to get into the unheard of stuff. I want to know what the surprises are. I want to know what the hit of the show might be that's going to catch me off guard. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. And of course, I don't know what that could be, although I'm holding hope that we'll learn more about Chucklefish's Spellbound. They are publishing this game called Spellbound. If you don't know what it is, it looks very much like Stardew Valley meets Zelda meets RPG of some sort. It has its own unique feel, but you can imagine that it is basically like Stardew Valley if Stardew Valley was in Hogwarts. You play as a wizard, you go take classes, you level up your potioning skills, and you have relationships with people, etc., etc. It looks fantastic. I love the pixel art, and I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I want to learn so much more about Spellbound, and that is going to be my game of the showcase if they decide to talk about it in tomorrow's event. A new Splatoon 2 special demo has gone live on the Nintendo Switch eShop, allowing players to play various online multiplayer modes for free starting from March 19th, that is today, until Monday, March 25th. So you have a little less than a week to play Splatoon 2. The demo is said to showcase 4-on-4 Turf War, Salmon Run, League Battle, and Ranked Battle. So you get to play basically the whole gambit of online multiplayer modes. And you will be able to play all of those modes with friends who already own the full title. So if you know a bunch of people who have Splatoon 2 already and you've been on the fence, this is a great opportunity to dive into it and play with your friends to get a good idea of what the game is all about and whether or not you want to purchase it. And if you do decide that you want to purchase it, downloading the demo, just the act of downloading the demo, will get you a 20% discount on Splatoon 2 if you decide to purchase the game before that time period is over. So before Monday is done, you get 20%. And there's even more than that. They are really pushing this special demo for Splatoon 2 because if you download the demo, you're going to get a 7-day free trial for Nintendo Switch Online. And that is significant because you get that the moment you download the demo. You're going to get an email with a code that's going to allow you to get that trial. You don't have to play Splatoon 2 at all. So if any of you guys out there are just interested in maybe playing Tetris 99 for a week, or doing whatever it is that you want with that 7-day free trial, download the Splatoon 2 demo. You don't even have to touch it once it's been downloaded, I don't believe. You will get this email and boom, you're all ready to go. This is a great deal. It's awesome. I like it. I mean, I already have Nintendo Switch Online. I already have Splatoon 2, so it doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but if anyone's on the fence, it's a no-brainer to pick this up. My big question is why? Why are they doing this? Why are they pushing Splatoon 2 so hard since Splatoon 2 is kind of winding down in terms of its life cycle? They already announced that they're not really pushing any new content updates for Splatoon 2. We're not seeing new maps. We're not seeing new items. We're not seeing new modes. We're not seeing, obviously, new expansions. We had the Octo expansion last year. No more paid DLC after that. They even talked about how Splatfests are ending in the middle of this year. So I would say Splatoon 2 is kind of on its last leg. So to see this kind of like push for more people to get into the Splatoon 2 ecosystem and be able to have a discount and play online for free and get it all into that jazz makes me question what the motive is here. Of course, it could just be Nintendo saying we want to have a good deal for a great game, and that's fair, but I feel like maybe there's something to be said about Nintendo Switch Online and those numbers and them pushing Splatoon 2 as the golden child for Nintendo Switch Online. Because if you think about Nintendo's first party lineup, Splatoon 2, more so than any other game on the Nintendo Switch for Nintendo specifically, is the one that relies the most on Nintendo Switch Online. Because I would say, 75% of that game is all online multiplayer. That is Splatoon. I mean, really, the online single player, or the single player, is great. It's fun, but that's not why you buy Splatoon 2. Really, the community at large is obsessed with the multiplayer, and so they go hand in hand with each other. So I'm not surprised that there is this deal going on that lets you not only try out Nintendo Switch Online, but Splatoon 2, a game that if you do get hooked on, if you do end up liking it, will encourage you to subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, because that's really the only way to enjoy that game for a prolonged period of time. Maybe, I'm guessing that now that we're in March, a lot of people who purchased a Nintendo Switch during the holiday season with Nintendo Switch Online to play Smash Brothers, well, maybe they're considering not resubbing. And this is Nintendo's attempt at saying, hey, there is this awesome other game that is definitely worth subscribing to Nintendo Switch Online for. That is Splatoon 2. Do not forget it, even though we've pretty much moved off of Splatoon 2 and we're probably working really hard on Splatoon 3 right now. Our last story has to deal with Gearbox Software, who continues to tease more soon-to-be-announced games before the end of this month. Now, we already talked about Borderlands 2 last week. They tweeted basically this picture from a scene in Borderlands 2 that was slightly blurred. And what we talked about was using our deductive reasoning skills and how Borderlands 2 is basically on every single platform known to man, including the Nvidia Shield and the PlayStation Vita. The only thing that is plausible or reasonable that I would expect Gearbox to be doing with Borderlands 2 is probably porting it onto the Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure what else they could do. They're not going to remaster it again. They're not going to add DLC to that game. I'm not saying this is the only option is bringing it over to the Switch, but it's a pretty darn likely option. Well, today, or rather yesterday, we're talking about it today, this time the company basically tweeted a picture of Bulletstorm Full Clip, another game in their library, kind of similar to Borderlands 2 in the fact that it is a first-person shooter experience with a lot of style and charm. Except this time there was a subtle difference in that image. It wasn't blurred this time like the Borderlands 2 image. Instead, the two characters displayed from Bulletstorm Full Clip in this tweet have switched positions. You see that? They switched positions, leading many to believe that this remaster of Bulletstorm Full Clip will be coming to the Nintendo's hybrid platform at some point in the near future. Like this Borderlands 2 announcement, Bulletstorm has also released on a multitude of other platforms, not nearly as many platforms as Borderlands 2, mind you, but it has released on PC, PS3, Xbox 360, and the modern platforms, PS4 and Xbox One. So again, by sheer process of elimination, there are only so many things they could be doing with these old games like this. Okay, it's pretty safe to assume that the most likely option here is that Borderlands 2 and Bulletstorm will be making their way onto Nintendo Switch, and we'll find out about this probably later in the month. Gearbox is hosting a PAX East panel on the 28th of March where they are said to finally reveal what these games are that they are teasing. They teased more than just these two, but these are the two that most likely have something to do with Nintendo's platform. So we will learn about these mysteries, or rather not so mysterious games, next week. So it's cool to see that Gearbox might suddenly be very, very stoked about the Nintendo Switch. Gearbox has some great games in their library as well as some duds, and to see that they're looking at some of their more fan favorite titles and bringing them over onto the Nintendo console, even though they're first person shooters, that's not a genre we often see on the Nintendo Switch. That's really cool. I appreciate that they're doing that. They must have seen that the Switch is performing really well for third parties, and they want to jump on that bandwagon of bringing on ports onto Nintendo Switch and seeing how much money they can rake in from it. Of course, I'm okay with that because we get experiences like Borderlands, like Bulletstorm. Borderlands 2, in my opinion, is a game that I desperately want to play on a handheld that isn't gimped by technical hurdles like the PS Vita version was. So I'm excited to see what they can do with that as a Nintendo fan. I am curious also what this means for the FPS genre as a whole. Is this a sign that we're finally ready to play more first-person shooters on the Nintendo Switch? If these games sell well, if Borderlands 2 and Bulletstorm Full Clip actually come out for the Nintendo Switch and sell really well for Gearbox, do we start turning heads from other companies? Does Activision start turning heads and say, hey, we have the biggest, most important first-person shooter brand of all time in Call of Duty. Maybe we should try to give Nintendo a bone here and say, what does Call of Duty on the Switch look like? Could that be a major success? Who knows? Activision has tried to put Call of Duty on almost every single console ever. I mean, they just announced Call of Duty Mobile. They've had a Call of Duty on the Vita. They had Call of Duty on the Wii U. So for Call of Duty not to be on the Switch, I don't know. I mean, Activision is not playing around. They obviously were not happy with the Wii U version, but I'm curious to see what it will take for the biggest brand in FPS history, perhaps, to be brought over onto the Nintendo Switch and at least given a test run. Not that I really want to see Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch personally, but it is like a good litmus test, right? If Call of Duty is on the Switch, that means that FPS genre as a whole and that multiplayer shooting genre as a whole is in really good health, I would imagine, for Nintendo's platform. So we're going to learn more about FPSs in the future, but specifically Bulletstorm, Borderlands 2, look out for more news about that come the 28th of March. And that's pretty much all of the news I had to share with you guys today. If you want to reach out to me in any way, you can on my website, heartcontainerspodcast.com, or you can talk to me personally with my Twitter, where my handle is @RomeFawaz. That's ROMEFAWAZ. This has been Heart Containers for Tuesday, March 19th. Thank you so much for joining me today, and make sure you tune in tomorrow, and also make sure you tune into that Nindies Showcase tomorrow, because it's sure to be a real treat.